Good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of Win TV. I'm your host, Denise Rollard Barnes, and I want to thank you so very much for joining us today. We still have a few hot days ahead of us, and it's okay. I am not ready for the end of summer. And so we do have a couple of weeks before that happens, but we know the days are getting shorter. They're getting more dark days than light days. So, folks, enjoy these last few days while you can. But some of you out there might like the new season that we're entering into, that season called fall. I'm a summer girl, but fall that's coming up. So, anyway, everything for all different people in all different seasons, whatever it takes. Um, I'm following my script here, and so some things here that I'm going to say that may not ordinarily have come out of my mouth. But we are about to go into our 58th anniversary. The Washington Informer newspaper. Would have been around for 58 years, or will be around for 58 years in October. October 16th is our birthday. And so looking forward to sharing some historical moments with you when we get to that date. October the 16th. And I want to thank those of you all who happen to be looking at LinkedIn. I've been here forever. So when people say thank you, congratulations, Denise, for 40, I don't know if it's 42 or 43 years at the Washington Informer, I had to think, really? Hadn't it been longer than that? But anyway, thank you so much for those great words of congratulations. I do appreciate that. And as I say to folks, this is a labor of love. I really enjoy publishing in this newspaper, working with the great staff that we have that is so focused on making sure that we keep our communities informed. And when I say communities, of course, we cover the District of Columbia, Prince George's County, Montgomery County, Northern Virginia, the United States, and the world. So there's a lot of local news, which is our primary focus, but global news, national and global news that we feel somewhat equipped to write about as well. Just heard this morning that folks are not waiting until November, Thanksgiving, to do their holiday shopping, that they're beginning to do it now. And why not? I mean, prices are being slashed. Stores are trying to get things off their shelves from last year, but don't tell anybody you're getting last year's stuff because they may feel offended, but how would they know otherwise? But yeah, some people are shopping already. And can you believe it? We're only 3 months away from Christmas and Kwanzaa. And so, the time is really flying. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on today. We hope you've had a chance to pick up a copy of the Washington Informer. I always like to pull out the print edition because folks need to know, are you all still printing? And the answer, of course, is yes. We are still printing and we'll continue to do so long as we have readers out there that want to feel the ink between their fingers. And you can also read us online at www.washingtoninformer.com. There's the digital edition, but that's where our website is as well. So we would love for you to go to washingtoninformer.com. Somewhere down at the bottom of the page, there's a place where you can subscribe to the Washington Informer. And so it would be our honor to have you all to subscribe to our digital edition. You'll get a daily newsletter. You'll get information about events happening in the DMV, all kinds of news and information that we get out to you. We hope we're not, overburdening you with emails, but we just have so much to share. So signing up for the Washington Informer online would be a great thing. And of course, we would totally appreciate it. And if you're watching us right now on Facebook, we ask you to go and hit share so your followers can see the broadcast. And if you're watching on Twitter, be sure to follow us and we will follow you back. And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Washington Informer TV. That's one word, no spaces, Washington Informer TV. Please subscribe. All of these things help us. People say, well, your paper's free. It's free online. How do you make money? Advertising. That's how we make money, is advertising. And our advertisers are always asking us, how many people are reading the paper? How many people are picking it up? How many subscribers do you have? what are your analytics? Those of us who are in business know that those numbers are extremely important to others that are doing business with us. So we count every one of you who subscribe or support the Washington Informer is very special and a member of the Washington Informer family. So the big news right now, Queen Elizabeth II has died. She died yesterday at the age of 96, and she is being mourned, as well as her reign has been is being critiqued across the world. I mean, so many people have had questions about the monarchy, not only questions, but also uh, um, are challenged by the history of the monarchy and how it has impacted particularly folks in Africa and the Caribbean and even Blacks in uh, Great Britain. So it's been interesting for me to listen to these stories. And we did a great piece. If you go to WashingtonInformer.com, Stacey Brown has a story up now that talks about uh, Queen Elizabeth and her impact on Africa. We'll be having some other columnists who'll be writing some pieces about that as well. It's a good time to really look at and learn and expose some of the things that we have not really talked much about because nothing has given us the opportunity to do so recently as the death of Queen Elizabeth and the second and the monarchy and what's going to happen now that King Charles the third will be taking over her reign. We also sadly heard that CNN veteran anchor Bernard Shaw died on September 7th. He was CNN's first chief anchor and worked there for over 20 years. He helped cover Watergate, the Watergate scandal, and the Gulf War, and the student revolt at Tiananmen Square. And so we know him as the journalist. He was a fine communicator, and we will miss him dearly. Our condolences go to his family. We also heard that famed comedian, Netflix comedian David Arnold has died. Um, in addition to his two Netflix specials, he wrote The Ricky Smiley Show, The Real Husbands of Hollywood, Tyler Perry's House of Pain, and Bigger. So his death at the age of 54 was due to natural causes. And likewise, we wish his family, we're keeping them in our prayers. On a lighter note, Francis Tiafoe, the son of immigrant parents of Sierra Leone and a native son of local Hyattsville, Maryland, African-American tennis player, is the first African-American man to reach the U.S. Open semifinals since Arthur Ashe. He's been playing some great tennis. I think there's a wonderful match that's coming up this evening. You won't want to miss it. And so check out Francis Tiafoe. We hope at some point we'll be able to have him as a guest here on WIN TV. So many folks just sort of were blindsided because, maybe folks don't follow tennis. But his story is a great one, a wonderful story. And we certainly look forward to sharing it with you if you haven't heard it already. The official White House portraits of the Obamas was unveiled on Wednesday during a ceremony in the East Room of the White House. President Obama's image was painted by Robert McCurdy, and Michelle Obama's portrait was painted by Sharon Sprung. These are some wonderful portraits. We heard the president talking about all the features that they both of the artists were able to capture with him and his lovely wife Michelle Obama, and so it was a wonderful event. And now their portraits will hang in the White House. They should have done so under the previous president, but that did not happen. So President Biden makes sure that the practice of putting the former president's portrait in the White House actually occurred. Now we're waiting with bated breath to find out when and if. Never mind, I won't go there. So our guests this week are Hannah Oliver Depp, a Black and queer bookseller and owner of Loyalty Bookstores in Northwest. We also have Betty J. Hines, CEO and founder of Women Elevating Women, and Camille Burns, CEO, Women Presidents Organization, joining us to talk about their upcoming conference and how they want to help women overcome systemic barriers and scale their businesses. We're also excited to have Aisha Kahil, a member of Sweet Honey in the Rock, who's been a member for 41 years. And she will talk with us about the group's 50th anniversary tour. Can't wait to hear that story. And she'll be talking with Washington Informer reporter Brenda Seiler. So with that, we're going to now move on to our news broadcast with Curtis Knowles, and I'll see you on the other side.
This is WIN TV News, bringing you the news that matters. Prince George's County residents aged 17 and younger will now have a midnight curfew starting Friday, September 9th, which was announced at a press conference by County Executive Angela Alsobrooks. The new rule takes effect after gun violence killed at least 3 people in the county over Labor Day weekend. PG already had a weekend curfew for the youth on the books, but the law is being enforced again to help address recent violent crimes among the youth. Children 17 and under must be at home between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. on weeknights and 11:59 p.m. and 5 a.m. on weekends, unless actively being supervised by an adult. Also, Brooks said that parents and guardians will be notified if their children are out past curfew. 5 metro stations along the Orange Line east of the Stadium Armory Station will be back in service on Tuesday. The stations closed for maintenance, platform reconstruction, and upgrades, and were located at Minnesota Avenue and Deanwood in D.C., and in Cheverly, Landover, and New Carrollton in Prince George's County, Maryland. The stations have been closed since May 28th. The reopening of these stations highlights the completion of the 4-year program to rehabilitate and modernize the 20 outdoor stations across Metro's blue, orange, silver, yellow, and green lines. The names of hundreds of U.S. law enforcement officers, elected officials, and military members appear on the leaked membership rolls for a far-right extremist group that's accused of playing a key role in the January 6th insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. The Anti-Defamation League Center on Extremism poured over more than 38,000 names on leaked Oath Keepers membership lists and identified more than 370 people it believes currently work in law enforcement agencies. The data raises fresh concerns about the presence of extremists in law enforcement and the military, who are tasked with enforcing laws and protecting the U.S. 50 years in the making, the National Rhythm and Blues Hall of Fame, or the NRBHF, is coming to life. Founded in 2010, the NRBHF will now have a permanent home in the state-of-the-art facility in Marks, Mississippi, according to its founder and CEO, Lamont Robinson. The body has inducted 200 artists, including R&B icons like James Brown, Aretha Franklin, and B.B. King. The NRBHF's groundbreaking ceremony will kick off the annual Mules and Blues Fest on September 30th. Robinson commented on the museum saying, quote, "I've been a longtime activist and advocate for preserving the history of rhythm and blues music and its legends. There is no other Hall of Fame in the world that is primarily focused and dedicated to the history of R&B music on a national scale."
Thank you, Curtis. Thank you very much for that. And yes, I hope you all will get the word out to these young people and their parents, particularly about the Prince George's County curfew that goes into place right here on Sunday this weekend. I did have an opportunity to attend the press conference that County Executive Alsobrooks held on Monday, and folks are really, everybody's looking for answers, and everybody's saying we have to do something. And as she said, and some people are saying that this is not going to stop the crime in Prince George's. Well, that's not why the curfew was put in place. And she was very clear about that. She wants to protect children. And there are children who are engaged, according to County Executive, and we can look at the stories and see the statistics, who are involved in crime, dangerous crimes, carjackings with weapons, and are victimizing other children and adults. So the idea is, yeah, it's unsafe to be out on the streets after a certain hour. I mean, if you're under the age of 17, yes, it is unusual. I know kids are working, and I think that if you're working, as she said, you have a valid excuse. I guess my biggest question is how they're going to enforce this. Prince George's, DC, police departments all across this country really are overwhelmed with some of the issues that they're dealing with. And now to have to it puts them and children in compromising situations if they have to go and round up these kids who are should be at home or indoors or in a place that's safe, but are out there on the streets and after the curfew. So we are hopeful that this 30-day um, curfew that starts on Sunday will make a difference and make, particularly as the county executive says, make those who are responsible for their children responsible. That's the point that she's got to make. That and Police Chief Aziz said the same thing. You know, we are not really here to parent children. That parents need to parent children. And so it's one of those things where people don't want to blame parents for what's happening in the communities, what's the crime that's taking place, particularly with young people. And mind you, I have to say this, it's not just young people. I mean, the majority of those who are committing these crimes are 30, I think average around 30 years old. So we don't want to point fingers at a population of folks who are really pretty much doing the right thing. Our kids are going to school, majority of them, doing their homework, uh, taking care of their chores, taking care of family responsibilities, taking care of themselves. They're doing wonderful things, and we need to tell stories about how they have been able to overcome the lure of the streets to really be responsible young folks. And we are so proud of them. But we always end up focusing on that small number that are wreaking havoc in our community. So we'll see how this curfew turns out. And it may be a model for others, and why it was. Someone wanted to know why it wasn't enforced earlier in the summer when it would have made a difference. We can all look back and say if we coulda, woulda, shoulda, but it is in place now. So let's see how it works. And let's hope that we don't lose any more children um, from this point going forward. That's the sad story, when a 1-year-old is shot. Even though that 1-year-old was in their home, someone unloaded a bullet, unloaded a gun, and that 1-year-old was hit. Fortunately, I don't think there was a loss of life there, but there's just something that we have to take control of. And it starts in the home. All right, are we ready for our first guest, Sherry? Let's welcome Hannah Oliver Depp, owner of Loyalty Bookstores. Hi, Anna. How are you?
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. Where are you located?
Our stores are in Petworth on Upshur Street, just off Georgia Avenue, and in downtown Silver Spring on Ellsworth Drive.
Wonderful. So you have 2 stores.
We do.
Okay. All right. I'm glad to have you on. I mean, there are a couple stores that we know fairly well, but Loyalty
Yes.
Bookstores is a new name to me and maybe others. So, how long have you been in the book selling business?
I've been bookselling at various stores for over a decade, but our store is only 3 years old. We started out as a pop-up, and then opened up in Upshur Street in 2019 and in Silver Spring in 2020, about 2 weeks before the pandemic. So there's a lot of folks who still haven't found us yet because they were inside for the last 2 years we've been open. But yeah, it's been a wild ride.
You know, it's been interesting. Bookstores have been like newspapers, and there were stories, I guess, maybe beginning about 5 years ago, when folks were saying bookstores were closing. There was no future for bookstores. Everybody
Yep.
could go on and read electronic books. But after going to the National Book Fair last weekend and looking at my shelves, and talking to people who are in book clubs and looking at talking about shelves, looking at your shelves,
Yep.
I think there's either been a resurgence or there was a misread. What do you say?
I say it was a strong misread. I'm a huge fan of electronic books and audiobooks, especially in terms of accessibility for folks who need a larger print or, can't necessarily always afford full price hardcover. And we sell those, via our website, and most independent bookstores do. But I think what people really recognized even before the pandemic, but even more so, is that they want their community to feel like home, and they want it to be special and unique to them. And they don't want the same thing to be on every block. They want their neighborhood to feel like their neighborhood. And a bookstore is a really, good way of doing that. And so we've been incredibly blessed with it, with neighborhood support from the jump, and it's only been growing. And we do our best to represent our neighborhood on our bookshelves and show them books where they get to see themselves, and see their neighbors, because we live in an incredible city filled with all different kinds of people, and we want all of them to find themselves. But I think really people love a physical book. It's a beautiful object to have in your home. I think books make a home, obviously. But and I think that just because there's lots of formats to read in, that's not what's going to kill bookstores at all. And so I think our neighbors are ride or die for us, and we return it. That's why the store is called Loyalty.
Wow, that's wonderful. So are there any particular genres of books that you sell or that you
Yeah.
carry? Uh-huh.
We have a broad range of genres, everything from graphic novels. We have children's books for all ages, a lot of fiction across various genres, whether you're looking for romance or fiction or science fiction or fantasy or literary fiction, and a wide variety of nonfiction as well. But the books on the shelves focus on authors of color, on marginalized voices that are traditionally, maybe a seasonal holiday, Black History Month, Latinx History Month display table. They're the center of our store. And so that's actually our core mission, is to make sure that those voices, whether it's an immigrant voice, a Black voice, disabled, queer, they're the center of the store. They're who's faced out on the shelves. They're on the theme table for the content of their books, not the race of the person who wrote them. But we get to focus on their books exclusively. Yeah.
So what's it like? What is coming into Loyalty bookstores like? What's the experience? I mean, of course, you see books, but is there what do you do to make people to help people, peruse and
Yeah.
enjoy that whole experience?
Both of the spaces are smaller physical stores, and so there's a lot crammed in there. Everyone who visits our store is like, "Wow, you've got a lot of books in here." And we're like, "Yes, we do our best to fit as many books in there as possible, because we want as many people as possible to find themselves." So there's a ton of books, a wide variety of genres, like I said, and the shelves are stacked very deeply, and then we have a lot of tables, and we try to put the kiddo books low to the ground so the kids feel comfortable just picking them off the shelf and reading them and flipping them through. We want you to bring your kids in and plop down on the carpets on the floor and have a nice read together. It is a very please touch me full store experience. There's a lot of wonderful, unique gift items from Washington, D.C. makers, as well as nationwide makers of color. So you can find a gift for somebody. A lot of times on the weekend, people run in and they're like, I got to get, we have a birthday party at 2. I got to get a present, so we try to be there for everybody. And then you're going to find booksellers who care deeply, deeply, deeply about the books on the shelf, who know what books are on the shelf, who care about what's being published right now, and are learning about the publishing history in general as well. We want to be a place that creates jobs for people who really care about books and have a place to come learn about the industry.
I want to talk about the grant that you received from Wells Fargo. But I also want to say, I'm one of those individuals who loves children's books, and I just buy them for some reason. I don't have children. I mean, little children. My children are grown men now, and no grandchildren. But I love buying children's books. So, what would you advise somebody like me who just? And I think literacy. That's a big issue here in DC. We have a nonprofit that focuses on that. And we're trying to figure out how we can improve the literacy rates. Our show last week focused on each one of our guests talk about making sure children read. Yeah. So what would you say about how a community can support that through a bookstore like Loyalty Bookstores?
Absolutely. We donate books on the regular. Sometimes folks go in and donate right through our website, or they'll come by and buy a book and hand it to us to hand out to donate. We work with an open book foundation, which brings authors and free copies of the author's books to schools around the DMV. But I think in general, I think sometimes people are so concerned about making sure that the kid is reading exactly the right type of book, or maybe their book from when they were little. And there's a lot of barriers to reading, and interest on the part of the kid should not be one of them. So, as much as possible, if you bring your kids into the store, or the library, or wherever you can go to get physically in touch with books, and let them play and pick out a book. That's one of the reasons, like I said, we try to keep the bookshelves accessible for the kids, because if they need to. When I was little, I just wanted to read about dragons. Like, that was I just wanted to read about dragons. And my mom was making a really good effort to make sure that I was reading Black history and everything. And then I got a little older and started realizing there's science fiction written by and about Black people, and that was a wonderful science fiction and fantasy by us. But I wouldn't have been so interested if she was like, no, you can't read your fantasy books, you need to read only these history books. And so I developed a love of reading because I was encouraged to explore my interests. And I think
Nice.
that's a really beautiful thing we can do for kids. There's so many more kinds of books now. Oh my gosh, I'm so jealous of children. Like, the beautiful, beautiful illustrations on children's picture books, the adventure books written with children of color at the center of them. There's a little bit of something for everyone. Encourage them, let them read their graphic novels. That is emotional literacy, which we deeply need in our culture and our country right now. Let them pick out the book. It'll go a long way.
I love that. So tell us, you got a $20,000 grant from Wells Fargo. What, how, why, when, where, what for?
Well, it was a complete surprise. We had no idea it was coming. And we got a big, one of those big foam checks, which was we have it hanging in the store, because I was like, this is a crazy thing. This is a once in a lifetime moment. And it was totally wild. Good Morning America was doing a spot on Black owned businesses for Black Business Month. And so they did for us, and at a dance company in Atlanta, they did a bunch of beautiful spotlights. And we thought we were just like part of this larger package of discussing Black businesses that week. And, they asked us if we would come online for a moment, and we thought it was just going to be a quick little thing. And then they did this beautiful, entire piece about the store, which I wasn't expecting. It was so gorgeous and lovely.
Wow.
And that enough for me was like, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. My mom and my aunties are going to see this. And then at the very end, in the last moment, they surprised us with this check, with this donation from Wells Fargo. And so, it's still a big foam check. But once we get those funds, we're hoping to expand and grow into a bookmobile. So we have a little
Nice.
bus lined up we're hoping to purchase, because we want to be able to. We love our neighborhood and our communities. We will be there. We'll be in Petworth, and we'll be in Silver Spring. But we would love to take the bus around to book deserts in the DMV that don't have a physical bookstore location. Go to festivals, just spread the word about literacy, making sure people know there are books by and about them. And team up with our wonderful DCPL and Montgomery County and PG County library partners, and bring books into people's backyards.
That is fantastic. I mean, how did they find you?
Well, so actually, one of the producers of the Good Morning America actually grew up in Petworth, and so she was delighted to learn there was a Black-owned bookstore that had opened up in her neighborhood. And we're very, very vocal about the publishing industry, about its strengths and its weaknesses when it comes to diverse literature. And we partner, like I said, with a lot of wonderful not-for-profits. Like an Open Book Foundation, like We Need Diverse Books. And we work hard to be vocal online on social media to make sure that we're shouting out wonderful authors and wonderful organizations from the rooftops. So I think they just were looking at different Black bookstores and for what we stood for.
Right.
It was incredible. We weren't expecting it at all.
No, congratulations. I mean, that's really great news. And I can't wait to see, this, I won't call it a bookmobile, but it is a bookmobile.
I hope so. Yes, I hope it will become one.
But my final question to you, though, is why a bookstore? What led you to this on this journey, in your life at this point in your life? Why a bookstore?
That's a great question. I started out thinking that I would be a professor. I was working towards my PhD, and was burnt out, but also was a little bit frustrated by the distance between academia and the community, which there's a lot of really wonderful people who work to counter that, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But I started working at my childhood bookstore of Politics and Prose in Washington, D.C., while working on my thesis, I believe, on my master's thesis, and completely fell in love with the bridge between I had worked my way through school the whole way, retail jobs, service jobs, everything. And those are really valuable, incredible skills that we sort of do not value in our community. And I wanted to bridge the gap between those two sides of my brain, and found the impact I was able to have on a community as a bookseller. The feedback I was able to directly give to publishers as an independent bookseller, and saying, hey, you need to publish more chapter books with mysteries with kids of color on them, because we sell tons of those, and there's only like 3 authors that y'all publish that are doing this, and there's a huge need for it. Getting to see the fruits of that labor and the direct effect it was having on my community. I got to teach, I got to impact books, I got to help bring wonderful books into the world and into my community. And it was like this combining of all these things. But the industry, I would walk into a room with hundreds of people and be one of the only people of color there. And so
It's
opening
amazing.
a bookstore, it's incredible.
It's amazing how we're still there. Yeah, we're still in these spaces and places. So yeah.
And we're like, whoa. So I knew that, it's capitalism. It's still a top-down thing. And so I said, we're going to start a bookstore. We're going to join the ranks of the incredible history of Black bookstores and Black publishing, and started working towards that goal pretty early on in my career. And I'm just incredibly blessed to have had the mentors that I had. And, shout out to Sankofa and Mahogany and all of our other great Black bookstores in Washington, D.C. area. And it's just been a pleasure to join the ranks of those people and to keep pushing our industry forward. And be there for our neighborhood.
I really, really wish you great success. I know when we had Pyramid Bookstore and Caravan bookstores.
Yes.
We missed them, but we're glad that you and some others have stepped up in those places, because we still like to read. What do you call them? Book clubs are still growing. There's some that have been around for decades.
Our store has book clubs. There's bookstores and there's book clubs in the community that buy books from us. We have events. We have a few events every week. Some are virtual, some are in person. You can find all of that on our website under our events tab. And we just invite the community to join us. We're so excited to be here.
Well, Hannah, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. You will see me. That's why I love this show. It gives me so many places to go and people to meet. And I'm hoping that others that are watching will come and visit and say they saw you on Win TV.
I hope so too.
Or go over to Good Morning America and see you get that check. That's a great thing, and we'll be looking out for that bookmobile. So thank you so much for being with us today, and we wish you the best.
Thank you, Denise. It was an honor.
All righty, have a good one. That I think is really good. I mean, I'm a book junkie. I don't know. I just buy them and try to get them read. That's always a challenge. But Betty Hines and Camille Burns, 2 women who are founders of organizations that I'm sure one of the things you all tell your folks to do is read this. There's a book for that, and there's a book for this. So I want to welcome you 2 ladies, Betty J. Hines, CEO and founder of Women Elevating Women, and also Camille Burns, right? The CEO of Women Presidents Organization. So thank you all for joining us.
Glad to be here. So happy to be here.
So tell me, I don't know who I should start with first, but either one of you can jump in and tell me a little bit more about the organization and what you do for women who are in business.
Betty? Okay, I'll kick it off. Women Elevating Women, or as we affectionately call it, WOO. We are a multicultural, multi-ethnic, multinational, global organization that we attract women who are both executives and entrepreneur, and we meet with them to help scale their businesses. So I'll start with that because we are a feeder program into the WPO, Women Presidents Organization. It was because of WPO that we launched WOO, because the women in WPO must have revenues of 2 million, 1 million if they're service-based. So that's what WOO is all about. We try to get them to that level of scaling, and then we hand them off to our big sister, WPO.
Wow. And so Camille, that means, what are the ranks of the women in WPO? I mean, do you have a large membership?
We do. We have about 2,000 members,
Okay.
and all members of WPO are CEOs, presidents, or executive directors of privately held companies. And as Betty said, we have the minimum revenue requirement. So this is just a match made in heaven, because we can really help support women from the beginning of their businesses as they're growing their companies. And then when they get to those next levels of growth, women need different things. And so this is just a great partnership.
So, Betty, I want to go or talk to both of you all about this. You know, as a woman business owner myself, and striving to one day maybe meet that that mark, Camille. But you know, as we do that, I mean, do women? You know, what are the challenges that women face in making sure that their businesses are as profitable as they could be?
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things that I tell women, and I will tell women like yourself, you don't have to do it alone. There are studies that show that women learn more effectively and efficiently if they're in peer advisory groups. So we have peer advisory groups, and we're global. So we have them across the country, and we meet monthly virtually, and they bring their challenges within their businesses and we discuss them. But ultimately, what we are bringing to them are workshops, seminars on how to leverage their social capital and how to have access to capital, resources, information to help them scale. That's something women don't do well. They can perfect it. And those are some of the monthly sessions that we have.
So, I mean, I guess one of the when I think about it, because, you know, a lot of us may be members of a chamber of commerce, we may be members of a Black chamber, but a women-based organization is something that maybe some women don't think about except early on in their careers. So, you know, I guess what I'm trying to get at is sometimes there are barriers that we don't see, right? And so what is it that's so specific to women? Is it internal, you know, our ideas about what we can do, or do we put limitations on ourselves, or are there external barriers? What are the things that, maybe one or two things that you think you've seen that women being a part of either one of the organizations helps women to overcome?
Well, I'll start with for women. One of the things for women is that we do have some barriers there, and that's like getting the capital that is needed. So women also, and this is something that I teach them every day or every month, is the 5 pillars of success. We need to learn how to do more of how to collaborate, because there is enough out there for all of us. We need to learn how to connect with the right businesses and organizations that's going to help us scale. And we also need to do some things in terms of branding. So there are 5 things that I won't go into in depth. They're on my website, but these are some of the things that hold us back. What we've also learned is that women learn exponentially in sharing their stories, hearing about the successes of other women, and that's how we scale. And we have been fortunate enough to partner with WPO, where WPO is giving us a broader platform, because they invite all of our women in Women Elevating Women, or WOO, to their annual conference. And Camille, maybe you want to add to that.
Sure. And, you know, Denise, what I would say also is that when a woman is running her own company, when she's a CEO, president of a company, you know, that's it. You don't separate your work from your life when you're running a company. You know, it's all one. And I think that one of the most important things about women getting together with women is, A, there's a comfort there. B, other women in the room understand what you're going through, and they can really relate, and they can understand those challenges of being a woman, maybe having children and trying to run a company, and just walking into a room and some of the biases that exist and things like that. So there is this added safety, I think, when you're in a room full of women, and being able to really talk about some things that you might not feel comfortable when you walk into a room full of men. And as Betty said, we have a conference every year, and it's an amazing event. The WPO conference, we have about 850 women from around the world come to that.
Wow.
And it's just, you know, there's an energy when you bring a lot of women entrepreneurs together that's really powerful. And then Betty's conference next week is really an extension of that. And it's just, I'm really excited to be part of Betty's conference, the WOO conference, and the women who are coming into that program or to that event are really exceptional as well.
So I was trying to say, you know, that's the dessert here. I was trying to say that to the end.
Jump the gun.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you did, because I wanted to segue to the conference. There is a conference coming up, Betty, next week. And so tell us about that.
The conference is what we call our local domestic conference. The women come from all over, from California, across the country, north, south, west, east, and we also have membership in Dubai. And this, because we meet virtually, they don't have an opportunity to see each other, but on 2 occasions. Number one, at the WPO conference this past year. Well, this year it was in Montreal in May, and then here in DC. So this gives them an opportunity to come together and see each other face to face. And more importantly, the emphasis on this conference is can they collaborate with each other? It's amazing if women would do more collaboration, they can scale. And so this is what this conference is totally about, is how we can work together. If not working together, how can other sponsors that are present help give us the sources that we need to scale and to just become $1 million business.
So I was talking with some folks just the other day about collaboration, and it seems as though that's, in my years of business, it seems as though that's been a fairly new term that works, because business owners historically seem to always think that everybody was a competitor, as opposed to someone that you could really collaborate with. We just saw that a few minutes ago on the call about Hannah in the bookstores, but she still gave shout outs to the other Black-owned bookstores in the area. So working together does make a difference. But what do you think is, well, let's stick with the conference right now, because I want to make sure that those women that are listening, because we don't have a lot of time, that want to participate in this conference can do so. So tell me how that can happen, Betty.
They can. There's a 2-day conference, and they can go on the website, which is woocrew.com. You'll see it right there. And they can log and register. They can also see the 2-day agenda. And if they can't make both days, we've provided them with a 1-day admission. They can come to either on the 13th or on the 14th, and they just put in there to register the redemption code, which is 1 day collaborate. And so they can pick which day they want to attend. So they can have access to all these amazing people. Camille will be there, and we have a Phyllis Newhouse. Phyllis Newhouse is an Entrepreneur of the Year. She's the first Black woman to take 2 companies public on the New York Stock Exchange in SPACs. And then we have other speakers such as Nicole Parker, who is named this year. She's right here in Maryland. She was named the 2022 8A Business of the Year, and Dr. Angela Marshall, who's had the fortune of being on the same platform with Dr. Fauci. So we have some amazing speakers, and the members themselves are amazing.
And did I miss, this is in person?
Yeah, this is in person.
And tell us where.
The first look on the 13th, we'll be going to Bluemont, and that's in Bluemont, Virginia. It's a 50-acre estate, and we will hold workshops there, and we'll have our keynote speakers. And then the second day, we're being hosted by J.P. Morgan Chase, and that's downtown D.C. on 15th Street. The addresses are located on our website.
Wonderful. And Camille, let me ask you, because I like the global concept, because, you know, there are women entrepreneurs or women presidents around the world. We never hear about them. We don't know, you know, what impacts that they're making on their communities. So how does that networking really grow? Still women who've reached that mark, but can still excel. What are those collaborations like with women from, you know, various parts of the world coming together?
You know, it's fantastic. I think that the world's gotten a lot smaller, right? So I think having connections with business owners around the world is huge. So many companies are looking at ways that they can expand their businesses. They can develop strategic partners, and having that global network, I think, makes a tremendous difference. I'll also say that one of my passions is our chapters that are outside of the United States, because in so many places, women are where women were in this country maybe 20, 30 years ago. And it's really hard for women to even find other women entrepreneurs, let alone have a network of them. So it's really impactful and exciting to be connected in these other countries. We're big in Canada, we're big in South Africa, and then we've got some chapters in Europe and South America and a couple other places. So Betty's group, actually, she's a chapter chair, and so Betty and I go way back, 2006, I think.
Yeah.
And Betty's group, her WPO chapter, has a sister chapter with one of our WPO chapters in Turkey. So every quarter they get together, and so there's those kind of relationships that are really invaluable. And the businesses in other countries are different. They have different challenges. And so understanding that global community and that global entrepreneurial space, I think, is really impactful for all business owners.
And have you found that women, particularly those who are presidents of companies, are expanding into areas that are really, quote unquote, non-traditional?
Yeah. Yes.
Such as
construction, tractor companies. What else do we have? Tech. There's a lot of women in tech, and I think that people don't think about women being in tech. And really anything you can think of. We probably have a member who's in that industry. So it's, I think that's one of the misconceptions about women-owned businesses, is that women are in these traditional spaces, or what we think of as traditional spaces. Our third largest industry in the WPO is manufacturing and distribution. And so I think that people don't really understand the kind of businesses that women are running. But it's exciting to see women, I think, advancing in all fields.
Well, you all, I mean, I'm glad to see you leading the crowd here in this area, because I think, again, and I'm guilty. I always say I think of myself as a Black-owned business, but I don't always think of myself as a woman-owned business. And, maybe I need to sit down on your couch, Betty, and you can analyze why that happens.
I would encourage you.
And I don't know how many other women do that. Maybe because I'm second generation or something. I don't know. But anyway, we won't analyze me on the show today. But I think it's really essential, and that you all are doing what you're doing. It's great. And so, I mean, I don't know if I've missed something. Is there something else you want to add that we haven't quite talked about?
Yes, I just want to mention to women, to reach out. Again, I want to stress, you don't have to do it by yourself. And so that is why we have a virtual organization. And we take women who are who for any type of a background in fields. We have people in trucking, but you need to get outside your zip code. And I would say that to you as well. In order to scale, you got to get outside your zip code, your county, your state. And that's why we're global. And we're glad we have a global partner.
Well, I want to thank both of you all for being with me today and for sharing this great information. I hope that we've been putting up, the website and places where people can go to learn more about the organization and to participate in the conference with that one day collaborate. I like that. So that's the word we have to keep remembering. So thank you so much for joining us, and maybe you'll see me next week.
I hope so. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to tell our story.
All righty, we appreciate it. All right, have a great one.
Thank you.
Thank you. So yeah, I mean, and we've got a triple hitter of women talking about business and entrepreneurship, and the other part of what we do when we think about STEAM, is it science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And so all of those things are critical to the growth of our community. And so I'm happy now to bring on Brenda Seiler, who will be introducing us to Aisha Khalil with Sweet Honey in the Rock. Brenda, thank you so much for joining and taking over from here.
Thank you, Denise. I'm happy to be here. Both of your previous conversations were great. I'm a regular shopper at Loyalty Books here in downtown Silver Spring, so I was glad to see them spotlighted today. Very important to our community here in the area.
Wonderful.
I'm happy to be here today. We're supposed to have in conversation with us Aisha Cahill, and there she is.
Yes.
This is wonderful. What we're about to talk about. Sweet Honey in the Rock, that has its beginnings here in Washington, D.C., is celebrating its 50th anniversary. They're going to be on a tour that kicks off at Strathmore on Rockville Pike in North Bethesda. That concert is next Friday, September the 16th. Y'all got to be there. And let's talk to Aisha, who has been with the group for 41 years. Welcome, Aisha.
Thank you.
Let's talk about what this anniversary means and what this tour is going to do, because Sweet Honey and the Rock is a globally known group. Talk about what you want to let people know about this tour.
Well, we're kicking off our what we call the Road to 50. It's actually our 49th anniversary, and this is just like a launch of the three-year festivities and projects that will commemorate the 50th year, which actually starts in 2023. Sweet Honey and the Rock was born in 1973, so now. Time goes so fast. 50 years have passed, and here we are about to celebrate 50 years.
And most audiences that have followed Sweet Honey and the Rock since its beginning are familiar with the group as being primarily a cappella, but when it requires, when the compositions make it say so, you bring in instruments as well, which is going to happen with the group that will be together at Strathmore. Talk about how instruments were actually introduced into Sweet Honey that, again, started out primarily as an a cappella group.
Well, I was not with the group at its inception. I've been with the group since 1981. When I came into the group, we were basically a cappella, but we always played percussion instruments. So everyone played something, whether it's shaker-rays, bells, shakers, different instruments. And so we had Isa Maria Barnwell was with us in the group for a long time singing bass, and then she retired from the group. And so we felt that rather than just trying to find someone else, and she recommended also that we not try to find another woman to try to have a voice as deep as hers. So what we did was we got with Romero Mendez, who's a very wonderful bass player. And Romero Mendez has been with us for the past 8 years. He's now actually a part of Sweet Honey and the Rock. For this upcoming concert, we will also have other guest musicians. We'll have John Paul Borelli on guitar. We'll have Romero Wyatt on percussion and different drums and things like that.
Bernice Johnson Reagan is the heartbeat, the founder of Sweet Honey and the Rock. The connection that makes Bernice and what Sweet Honey and the Rock has done and been about in Washington, D.C., is that it came out of the Black Repertory Theater Company here in D.C. that celebrated its 50th anniversary a few years ago. Robert Hooks, a lot of us know him as an actor, director, producer, and Bernice were two of the founders of that group. And I want to acknowledge right quick another member of Sweet Honey and the Rock, and that's Carol Maylard. And she spoke with me last week. We did an interview, and that article appeared in the Washington Informer yesterday. And one of the things that she talked about is how Bernice was able to weave in all kinds of music genres into what Sweet Honey and the Rock performs and the audience is used to hearing. Can you talk about, how that blended together? If you're talking about folk, rock, R&B, talk a little bit about that.
Oh, definitely. Well, we have, sing various genres of music, and from African traditional songs that we may do different arrangements for, to blues, spirituals, gospel, rap, hip hop, jazz. Is the whole gamut of great African American music is represented through us singing. A lot of it a cappella, a lot of it our own compositions that we have written, but also other things that we bring in that we actually arrange, other spirituals or things from our church that we maybe put a new arrangement on to just kind of put a different energy out there with that music.
I love the fact that I can think back on when I first attended concerts of Sweet Honey in the Rock. It was when I was living in Atlanta. And that's when I became familiar with the group. Denise Johnson Reagan, just as I am, is a Spelman College alumna. So she and the group performed on Spelman College's campus, and it was just a wonderful welcoming that we gave her. I want to also say that our executive producer, Chevry Lassiter, her daughter is also a Spelman College alumna. So I was happy to know that she was also rooted in the Washington, D.C. area and brought a little bit of that DC feeling with her as it came to the performance that the group did. But let's talk about the impact of Sweet Honey in the Rock on the culture, the legacy. What is it that you hope people will get and have gotten from what Sweet Honey in the Rock has offered to us?
Well, we as a group have always, through the songs that we write ourselves and also through other songs that we interpret, try to speak to ourselves as human beings in this planet, as women, as Black women, and how this culture of this society affects us in very unique ways. We've always tried to sing songs that address social justice, to be aware of what's happening in the world and its impact upon all of us, near and far. For example, climate change. We've been singing songs about climate change for quite a while. We've been singing songs about apartheid very early on, and there's all kinds of social justice issues that we want to sing about and make the world know about. And we feel that a lot of times with the voice, especially with the human voice, it can touch people in a way that it can enlighten them, inform them about things they might not know about, and also touch them in a way that they might want to change something within themselves or go out and be a presence, a force in the world that can make the world a better place.
I think that the fact that Sweet Honey in the Rock has been in the forefront of speaking about environmental issues and so other social justice issues. And I know that comes out of the foundation where Bernice started out with a group of singers during the civil rights movement called the Freedom Singers, and then segued into building this wonderful vocal group, Sweet Honey in the Rock. 50 years ago, probably some people thought, should we be past this need to inspire, invigorate, or even protest about what's been going on? But it never goes away. I heard Ambassador Andrew Young speak a couple of months ago, and he said somebody came up to him and said, "I thought we had gotten past this. I thought this was over." And Andrew Young's response was, "It ain't never going to be over." So that's unfortunate, but at least we are able to be inspired by Sweet Honey in the Rock. And the music, as you've talked about, is a blend of so many different things. You've done your own compositions. You've given your own interpretation of some songs that we know very well. And what is it that keeps you all going? I know it's the climate and everything that's going on, no pun intended, but what is it that motivates Sweet Honey in the Rock to keep going forward?
I think everyone has their own individual passions, what keeps them going on. I think for me, it's the music itself. It's an opportunity to share the gifts that I have with the audiences. It's an opportunity to go deep inside of myself to come up with, how do I feel? How do I feel about something? If I feel about something so deeply that I can write a song about it, and then can convey that and have an opportunity to travel and meet different audiences and express and communicate with different people about how their music is affecting them. That to me is a sacred thing. Music to me is a sacred thing. It keeps me going, it heals, it uplifts, it sustains. It's a holy art. And so for me, that is my inspiration.
Thank you, Aisha. And thank you for the blessing of Sweet Honey in the Rock, everybody. They are going to be kicking off their 50th anniversary concert tour at Strathmore next Friday, the 16th of September. You got to be there because you want to be embraced and loved by the music of Sweet Honey in the Rock. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brenda. That was a great, great interview. And yeah, I mean, DC, DC loves Sweet Honey, but the nation loves Sweet Honey. And I got to give a shout out. I just have to, because she's a good friend and I think a wonderful composer, Isai Barnwell. Isai, was one of the original founders of Sweet Honey as well. And there's quite a few, I think, that have come through the organization. But just always lent wonderful voices to make the whole time that they performed a wonderful experience. So great interview, appreciate it, and keep bringing us more. You got restaurants, you got theater, you got performances, you got a great lineup of stories that you continue to write, and we certainly appreciate it.
Thank you.
All righty. Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of Win TV. We're so grateful that you were able to join us. We will be back next week. I think we're going to be talking a little bit next week about, I'm not going to tell you because I don't know, but it's going to be hopefully another great show. It's a mystery. Okay. Literacy. Thank you. See, I should have known that because we talked about books. We keep talking about books. We're talking about reading, and we may do a little bit with some children's books, a children's author or something. But anyway, thank you so much for being with us. I want to thank those of you who posted messages. Of course, my mom, Vera Abbott, James Wright, Charlotte Williams. Thank you, Carol. Thank you for being on as well. Appreciate you joining us, and let folks know about Win TV. And hopefully we will see you next week. Have a safe, wonderful weekend and a great week, and see you back here, same time, same place. So long.